important aspect of the control system, which is second order system and the analysis of that second order system uh, for uh, for time response. So we have already discussed the effect of location of poles and zero in previous lecture, where we have seen that the location of the poles and location of the zeros actually change the you can say the response of the system. So compared to the simplicity of the first order system, a second order system exhibits a wide range of response that should be analyzed and should be described in a lucid manner. So varying a first order system parameter T and K simply change the speed and offset of the response, whereas change in the parameter of a second order system can be changed the form of the response also. That it may be possible that for some value of the constant the system is underdamped, overdamped, or critically damped. So that we will discuss in this lecture. So a second order system displays diverse characteristic like a first order system, or depending on the component values, it can be it can display damped or pure oscillation. So for its transient response analysis, it is a quite critical thing. Now a second order general system can be can be referred to this when it is subjected to a feedback system, which is over here negative feedback system is provided. So if you find this value is negative, you can say it is a negative feedback. This is the input to the system, this is the plant model, and this is the, you can say, the output. So when I compare the CS by RS, it is actually omega n square upon s square plus 2 zeta omega. So this is how we can calculate. Suppose this is GS and this is 1. So the relative transfer function of this is equal to GS upon 1 plus GS. That's why this GS is appearing. So this omega n square divided by s square plus 2 zeta omega n and s upon s square plus omega square plus 2 zeta omega n s divided by s square plus 2 zeta omega n s. So this get cancelled and finally I get this value. So here 2-3 new terms which is defining over here is omega n, and one is the zeta, and again some terms are appearing. So during this lecture he will reveal what are these things. Now this is omega n square. It is called undamped natural frequency, omega n square. So this omega n is undamped natural frequency, which is the frequency of oscillation of the system without damping. That means no damping is invited in it. And it is zeta is called the damping ratio of the second order system, which is measure of the degree of resistance to change in the system output. So if you see the example, how we determine the undamped natural frequency, I can say this is 4, which is given over here, and this 4 is, if I compare it with omega n square divided by omega n square plus zeta omega n plus s square. If I compare this from here, I can say omega n square is equal to 4 and 2 zeta omega n is equal to 4 also. So from here omega n is equal to 2 and zeta is also actually written here. Now this from here I can say that 2 zeta omega n will be equal to 2, sorry. So this zeta is equal to less than 1. So it is 0.5. So zeta is between 0 and 1. Now, right now I'm not revealing what I'm saying, why zeta is actually, how zeta is actually interrelated with the location of the pole, but eventually you can see that omega and zeta are actually describing the poles, location of the poles. So poles are nothing but the root of characteristic equation. Location of poles are majorly depends on this value. And in our earlier discussion, we can say when the system was first order, we can say that the steady state response is actually dependent on this K, but the transient response of the system is entirely dependent upon the poles. That's why I say that the root of the characteristic equation is like that. And if I just say this is the real axis, this is the imaginary axis, and if I locate these poles, so these poles will be like this, complex conjugate poles. And if you are having one real pole also, this also will describe the dynamics of the system. So we will see how the location of poles are actually important for this. Now this is real poles, but you can say that the negative part is actually there. So wherever this zeta square minus 1 is actually positive, then I can say that this will be the real poles. But if it is negative, I can say it is a complex conjugate poles. So when the system is called overdamped when the system is two real distinct poles. That means zeta I should be greater than 1. Damping ratio is greater than 1. So it says it is having two distinct poles like this. So real poles are distinct. So this is 1, this is 2. Underdamped system is called when system is having damping ratio between 0 to 1 and complex conjugate. So this is like minus A plus JB and minus A minus JB. Real part is here negative and the complex conjugate imaginary part is there. So minus A plus minus JB. So here this part is B and this part is A like this. You can write it. और यहाँ पे B लिखा हुआ है तो we can say minus B plus minus JC. So this part is C. If say then we can say this is minus B plus JC minus B plus minus B minus JC like this. So according to the value of zeta, a second order system can be set into 4 upon the fourth category. When zeta is equal to 0, then what is happening? It is having underdamped situation where the system is having only imaginary poles. That means the poles are lying on the imaginary axis. There is no real part in this. So according to the value of zeta, a second order system is again can be set into 4 type of pole. Now, when the system is critically damped, two real and equal poles. So you can see that we are defining the system on the basis of location and values of poles. So two real distinct pole system is overdamped. When the system is two real but equal pole, system is critically damped. Port number. When it is having complex conjugate poles, I can say it is underdamped. Complex conjugate pole underdamped. And when the system has two real distinct pole, overdamped system. So we will do the analysis how these values are actually contributing in this. Now this is the time domain specification where you can say the response is actually going upwards and it is settling down. So different step, this is the response of the second order system with respect to step input. So this is under damped system when omega n is greater than 0, but zeta is between 1 and 0. So this is highest peak, the highest value of the response is known as overshoot. Now, when you say that value of the highest response is actually equal to the 0.5 value of the 50% of the response, it is delay time. When it is equal to 1, it is rise time. Then when it is equal between 0.5, 0.05 to 0.2 of the steady state response, it is called the settling time. So this rise time is 10 to 90%, 20 to 100%, 50 to 90, 95%, and 0 to 100%. So the value of the standard input, value of the response is actually increasing from 0 to 50% of the steady state value, then it is called the delay time. And when it is reaching 10 to 90% or 20 to 100% or 5 to 95%, there are different values. So we call it rise time. And then when there is a peak on the value of the time where peak is appearing, which is called peak time. And the value of the response between 0.05 to 0.02 of the steady state response, we call it, this is the settling time. Now, the delay time is the time required for the response to reach half of the final value, which is I have shown. Rise time is the time required for the response to rise from 10 to 90, 5 to 95, and 0 to 100% of the final value. The underdamped response of the second order system is 0 to 100% is used. 10 to 90% also can be used in the overdamped system. Now, the peak time is the required for a response to reach the first peak. So this first peak is actually appearing on this particular time. So this TP, if you calculate the value of this TP, so this peak time is greater than rise time, and it is greater than the delay time in the underdamped system. So the maximum overshoot is the maximum peak value of the response curve measured from the unity. If the final steady value of the response differ from the unity, then it is common to use the maximum percent overshoot. It is defined as, you can say, the value of the response at the peak time minus the value of the response at the infinite divided by infinite into value of the response at infinite divided by into 100. So the amount of the maximum percent overshoot directly indicates the relatively stability of the system. That means here you are we are showing is system 1 and system 2. You can say the system 1 is having higher is having peak overshoot higher. So this system 1 is actually over here. It is written the MP system 1 is greater than MP system 2. That means the more stable system is system 2 because it is having low peak overshoot. Now the settling time is nothing but the time required for the response curve to reach and stay with the range of the final value of size up to 2% to 5%. It is the allowable envelope which is I am showing. So the value of the if the value of the response is in between this, we can consider that as a settling time. So this is from here to here, it is a steady state. Because the response of the system is actually settled out. Now, if you see the S-plane, here S-plane is the real part and the imaginary part. So design a compensator. If I want to design a compensator, what I do, I will take a response. I will convert it into the time domain response, and then I will calculate rise time, peak time, settling time, peak overshoot like this. And we can have different systems. Like this is the one system, another one is the system. So I can say that peak overshoot can be criteria for the design, as well as the criteria for the designing of the compensator can be the rise time, peak time, settling time, and peak overshoot. So distance from the origin of S-plane to pole is natural undamped frequency in the radian per second. So let us draw a radial circle, radius of 3 in the circle. If a pole is located anywhere on the circumference of the circle, we call it the natural undamped frequency, and it would be equal to 3 radian per second. Therefore, the S-plane is divided into constant undamped natural frequency omega and circles. So damping ratio, the cosine angle between the vector connecting origin and the pole and negative real axis is the damping ratio of this particular thing. Under damp ratio, undamped system, critically damped system, and draw. Let us having a point connecting origin of S-plane, and it is having 45 degrees. So this zeta will be equal to 0.707, and therefore the S-plane is divided into section of constant damping ratio line. So on this line, which I was showing, the value of damping ratio will be if the pole is here, 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 and likewise if the pole is here, the value of damping ratio is constant. So on this line, if a pole is located, the value of damping ratio of zeta or damping ratio will be constant. Okay. Now, now determining the natural frequency and damping ratio from the poles of the PZ map. So here PZ map is actually indicating. So So determine the natural frequency and damping ratio. I can say I can locate my poles over here and put the poles over here. So you just see this is how if I indicate if I say this will be the value of the radius, this will be the value of radius. So the radius will be actually giving the damping ratio. The natural frequency is close to loop poles of second order system is 2 radian and damping ratio is 0.5. So if I want to determine the location of closed loop pole and if I want to generalize it, I can generalize it by like this. So this is how we actually do. So you just see that second order, the natural frequency of the closed loop pole of second order is 2 radian per second. So when you see over here, it is 2 radian per second, and the damping ratio over here you can see this damping ratio, it is almost 30 degree. So cos 30 is 1 by 2. This is 2. So from here I can devise this transfer function, which is representative of the second order system. Now, if you see the S, if I talk about the underdamped system, this minus omega and zeta, all parameters are known to it, and we can actually reduce this minus zeta omega n like this, and the value of omega n 1 minus square. So this part is omega d, which is damped frequency. This is natural undamped frequency. From here, I can write that omega d is equal to omega n square 1 minus zeta square. So this is the damped frequency. When omega d is equal to 0, that means zeta is equal to 1. When zeta is equal to 0, omega n will be equal to omega d. So this is step response. If I calculate the step response by this, I can actually write the expression for this. And if I do the partial fraction, I will be able to, just do the simplifications, and I will be able to write the time response of this, and the above equation can be written in this, and you can further solve it, and you will be able to obtain the time response of the system like this. This is the time response of the undamped system, second order system. So this is the time response of the undamped system. When omega d is equal to n, that means psi is equal to 0, then Ct is equal to 1 minus cos omega n. It is very simple thing. When omega d is equal to omega n. Now, if I put zeta is between 0 to 1 and omega n is equal to 3, the oscillatory response will be observed. Now, if I put zeta is equal to 0 point and omega n is equal to 3, the higher system, for higher zeta, the system gets smoother, settling time is actually reduced. If I do zeta is equal to 0.9, it is further. So with the different values of zeta, I can actually plot the curve. And for the different value of omega n, I can plot the curve also. So if you increase the omega n, then what is happening? By increasing omega n, undamped natural frequency response is there, and peak is also shifting, and system response is fast with the less value of the omega. But if the value of omega n is actually increasing, that means the system is actually with the less value of the omega n, the system is sluggish, and with the low value of the with the high value of omega n, the system is fast. Now we see the time domain specification. If I put t is equal to tr in this particular expression, where ctr is equal to 1, I will be able to get the value of time. So this cannot be equal to 0. If I put this expression is equal to 0, what I will get? I will get sine omega tr is equal to this. So this tan omega dtr will be equal to this. Now this omega dtr will be this, and this tr is equal to 1 by omega d tan inverse minus omega n 1 by zeta square. So from here I can write tr is equal to pi minus theta by omega d. Here, first peak time also I can calculate, where if I put the differentiation of this is equal to 0, and I obtain that f dash x is equal to 0 at maxima. So if I calculate the maxima of here, that after this point, the value of the function is equal to negative, then I will be able to calculate the peak time also. And this peak time can be given as, by simplifying this expression, I can write this peak time can be given as 0 to 0 pi 2 pi upon omega t. Since for underdamped stable system, first P is the maximum, therefore the peak time can be given as pi by omega t. Now, maximum overshoot, I can also write that if C infinite is equal to 1, if I put infinite in the system, T is equal to infinite in the system, it will be equal to 1. So, when I put Tp is equal to pi omega t, which is the, you can say, the peak time, I will be able to calculate the maximum peak overshoot like this. So this will be the peak overshoot. And if I put the simplifications in this, if I will do this, I will be able to get the maximum peak overshoot will be e to the power minus pi zeta divided by 1 minus zeta whole square into root into 100. So these are some time domain specification, and it will be able to exponentially to demonstrate the characteristic of the second order system with the exponential decay generated by the real part of complex pole pair. So if you are having real part of the complex pole pair and it is negative located into left half plane, it will be showing exponentially decaying response. Now the real part of this is actually negative, that's why, and the imaginary part is also coming from this. So this real part and imaginary part will be actually showing the real part. So now the criteria of the 2%. So time consumed in the exponential decay up to 98% of the input will be equal to 4t, and it is given as 4 zeta by omega. So settling time 5% criteria, that means time consumed in exponential decay up to 95% of the input, it will be equal to 3 zeta by omega. So these are very important part where I have segregated that time period into t, 2t, 3t, 5, 4t, 5t, and we have observed the response in the previous slide. But here the 4t and 3t criteria is 2% and 5%. So these are the summary of the time domain specification which we can actually employ for solving the problems. Now, this is all about this time domain specification part.